Okay. We still have some folks coming in, so we're going to give about 3 more minutes for folks to join, and then we'll start the presentation.
Okay.
Just testing the mic. Can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Okay, can someone repeat that or say something one more time, please?
Hi, Shiraz. Shiraz, can you hear me?
Hello?
No. All right, good. I want to make sure that you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Okay, my apologies about that. My apologies about that. I'm just going to grab my notepad and then we're going to get this show on the road. All right. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Yeah,
evening.
there we go.
Hello,
All right.
good evening.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dante Arnwine. I serve as the district manager of Brooklyn Community Board 9. We are here with the Department of Housing Preservation. Thank you. Wow. Wow. With the Department of Housing Preservation and Development on a Housing Connect workshop. The agency is here to discuss how Housing Connect works, who's able to apply for opportunities via Housing Connect, what opportunities are available. After the presentation by HPD, there will be an opportunity to ask the agency directly questions about Housing Connect, how folks should go about applying, how often folks should go about applying for apartments. So if you have questions, feel free to either write them down, or politely raise your hand, and you will be recognized, and then the representatives from HPD then can answer your questions. I would ask just to move this along. If you could wait until the end to ask your questions, that would be most helpful. But again, I understand that some questions are urgent. And so again, write them down or politely raise your hand if you have any questions. This session is being recorded and live streamed via the board's YouTube page. So for folks who weren't able to attend today and find that this information will be relevant in the future, you can direct them to the board office. We can connect them to our YouTube page accordingly. For folks who are on the phone joining us, to raise your hand, you can use *9 to raise and lower your hand. Also, you can use *6 to mute and unmute so you can address everyone. Again, I just want to take the opportunity to thank HPD for partnering with us. Also, I want to thank Digital Girl, Michelle. Also want to thank the Major Owens Health and Wellness Center as well for providing these opportunities and space to do this. Again, my name is Dante Arnwine. I serve as the District Manager of Brooklyn Community Board 9. If you have any questions following this presentation, you can reach out to me at the board office. Our number is 718-778-9279. Again, 718-778-9279. Or you can email, which I always prefer. You can email us at bk09-1@cb.nyc.gov. Again, bk09-1@cb.nyc.gov. So with that, I am going to now turn this presentation session over to the folks over at HPD.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay,
We're honored.
there was a quick request to repeat the number. So the number to our board office again is 718-778-9279. And you can email us at bk09-1@cb.nyc.gov. All right, turn it back over to HPD. Thank you guys for being here. And if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourselves before you start the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Good evening, everyone. We're honored and happy to have you here. My name is Nadia Dormi. I work for HPD, and I am here with my colleague to talk about affordable housing. My colleague Shiraz Mansour, I'm sorry.
Nice to meet
to
you
talk
all.
about affordable housing in New York City and to explain how to apply and how the process works. Okay, so we will take a few minutes at the end to answer questions. So please hold, you can hold them until the end, or you can also write them in the chat. And as we go, we could try to answer them. Okay. So presentation outline. Today we will cover what is affordable housing, how can I find the affordable housing lotteries, how to prepare and apply to housing lotteries. I'm not sure if we're having a demo, but account registration and setup after you apply, what to expect, resources, and contact information. So what is affordable housing? Shervas and I represent HPD, the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, which is one of the two city agencies that oversees affordable housing in New York City. The other agency is HDC, the Housing Development Corporation. So it's very important that we know the difference between HPD and HDC. Wasn't P as in Peter, there was D as in David. The Housing Development Corporation. Please note that the city neither owns nor manages the affordable housing developments that we're going to talk about today. Sometimes we get inquiries about where to pay the rent, or I have a problem with the roof, or I have a leak. That we do not, unfortunately, we do not manage the buildings, and unfortunately, we won't be able to help you with that. So it's important that you know that. So the city provides financial benefits in form of low interest loans, capitals, and tax exemptions or abatements to private owners and developers, some of which are for profit and some of which are for nonprofit. In exchange, these developers are required to set aside a portion of the units in these subsidized developments at a below market rent and purchase prices. These units can be newly constructed buildings, older buildings that have been rehabilitated, or existing buildings that have vacancies, okay? So the housing is considered affordable if it costs about 1/3 or less of the household total income. Housing preservation and development, as I said, there's two of them, HPD and HDC. So please make sure that we remember that, okay? So how does Housing Connect work? Through Housing Connect, you can find and apply for affordable and rental homeownership opportunities. This is the beautiful thing about the new Housing Connect, because before for homeownership, you had to go to another HPD website. Now through Housing Connect, you are able to apply for rental and home ownership for first-time buyers. Please remember that home ownership, this opportunity is only for first-time home buyers. So to qualify, your household must meet the income and size requirement for a unit, and you must have a question of where do I find the income, the criterias, and all the details about the housing, the affordable housing. Everything you find it in the advertisement that we provide. Each lottery, you will find the advertisement, and it's imperative that everyone takes 5 minutes to read each advertisement, because it will give you all the details about that specific lottery that you're interested in. We're going to talk about advertisement a little bit in details a little bit more, but it's important that you know that. So please make sure that you only apply for the units that you think you might be eligible. So let's say that you see a beautiful building in Brooklyn, in the neighborhood that you always dream of, but that building only are offering let's say studios, but you are a household of 4. You cannot apply to that because unfortunately you won't be selected in the unit side. It is not going to be, it cannot accommodate your family size. So make sure, like I said, that you only apply to the buildings that you know you're gonna, that you qualify. And for that, you must include in your household profile, you must include everyone, all household members that you're planning to move in with. So make sure you do that. Also, you're contacted only when your application is reached. That means that if you see in your Housing Connect profile in that particular building that you apply for, you see a pending, that doesn't mean that they have reached your application yet. That means that application that you submitted is pending. So they will only contact you if you get selected, and then of course they'll ask you to take a step forward. Okay. Okay, so where can I find affordable housing? You can find about new affordable housing opportunities by looking in newspapers, consulting local neighborhood and groups and elected officials, but always the best, HDC also, of course, our website, community boards. But the best way to keep on top of new affordable housing opportunity, of course, is through Housing Connect. And we're going to talk about Housing Connect, of course. And we're talking about Housing Connect. So we're going to give you more details about how to find new opportunities. Okay. So one of these uh, choices, I will say, to find out about Housing Connect is our housing ambassadors. If you need help with your Housing Connect application, your profile, and everything that has to do with Housing Connect, or you don't have easy access to internet, or you just don't have a computer, we're encouraged to take advantage of HPD's housing ambassadors. These are nonprofit organizations located in all 5 boroughs that can help you walk through the Housing Connect application process.
Nydia,
Yes.
Nydia, so sorry, excuse me. Could you actually give me host privileges?
I'm sorry.
Could you give me, okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we got it. Okay, thanks. All right, please continue.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, housing ambassadors, we encourage to take advantage of HPD housing ambassadors. These are nonprofit organizations located in all 5 boroughs that can help you walk through the Housing Connect application process in their offices. So as they're also helping you with the profile, they can also you can learn from them, and they will help you how to prepare the application, how to prepare your profile. So these are amazing. This is an amazing opportunity. And we have over 40 community-based organizations in 60 different locations, in 19 languages, like I said, throughout the whole 5 boroughs. Also, there are also 4 housing ambassadors that cater specifically to people with disability. So in the screen, if you want to, or if you're able to, you have the website for the housing ambassadors, and where you could just put, let's say if you live in the Bronx or if you live in Queens, they'll give you all the organizations around your neighborhood. So please take advantage of that. So we're going to talk about a little bit about asset limits. This is I'm not going to get too deep into this because sometimes it gets a little complicated. But on each project that you applied, they're all going to show you an asset limit. On the advertisement, you will find, let's say if you're applying for a unit at a 60% AMI and you are a single household, you have to make sure that when you look at your bank statements, let's say if you have been saving money or if you have a lump sum or like something, those assets will not exceed the 60% AMI limit that they have. So let's say, like I said, you have a household of, you're a single household. So your limit for a 60% AMI will be 84,720. And sometimes applicants will say, no, but that will never happen to me. But when you have, let's say, a household of more like 5 people and they're all adults and they all have $5,000 here, the other one has another $3,000, it all adds up. And sometimes applicants can go over the asset limit. So make sure that you're also looking at the asset limits. And like I said, if you have any questions, please, you can contact us or you can contact the housing ambassadors that can help you figure this out. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about occupancy guidelines. So now I think this change happened like 2 years ago, probably. So household, please make sure that the household size must meet the occupancy guidelines. So for example, if you are applying, if you're a 2-people household, you can apply for a studio, you can apply for a 1-bedroom, you can also apply for a 2-bedroom. But now if you are a two-person household and you want to apply for a 3-bedroom, it's going to get a little more complicated than that. So you must follow the unit site. And like I said, all this information, you will find it on the advertisement. And it's imperative I talk about the advertisement because you will find absolutely everything and all the details about the unit that you're about to apply on the advertisement. Okay. This is one of my favorite parts, calculating household income. Okay, so in calculating your income, you should use the gross pre-tax amount for the household members who have a job through an employer. That means that's if you get a W-2 at the end of the year. So also with the pay stubs, that's what we're gonna be looking at. At the gross income, not the net. That's if you get a W-2 and in your pay stubs you get all the deductions. We're gonna be calculating the gross income, and we're gonna compare your last year's W-2. Of course, if you were working at the same employment, and also we're gonna calculate 4 to 6 pay stubs, and whichever is higher, we will take that amount. Okay. But for household members who are self-employed, meaning that you get a 1099 at the end of the year, we are going to look at the net income. So you can deduct eligible business expenses from your gross, and once that is done, then we will take the net amount. Okay. But like you will find more information about that in your tax returns that you filed last year. Okay. Also, I want to let you know that income may not just come from a job. Sometimes income can be non-employment, and can include, unemployment, disability, workers' compensation, Social Security, SSI, pensions, annuities, public assistance, alimony, child support, and also gift income. So all that we take under consideration, and of course we will add it into your household annual income. Also, rental subsidies may help you pay all or a portion of the rent. But please make sure you indicate that on your application if you have one. Sometimes applicants forget to include that, and then unfortunately they won't qualify income-wise. So make sure you include that. And it's imperative that you indicate that, and also the type of rental assistance. Okay. Rental subsidies. We have Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher, City of PEPS, HASA, and others. Okay, so make sure that you include that. So as I said before, rental subsidy vouchers may help you for all the portions of your rent. And as I said before, you must indicate that. Okay. Okay. So here's some details about the rental lotteries. On the rental lotteries, you can find rent stabilized units, in which we have the initial lottery, which that means that, as I mentioned before, the initial lottery is the newly constructed buildings. Also, we have re-rentals, and we will have mini lotteries for that, and also for the waitlisted. So we'll find initial lotteries and re-rentals. Now, important fact about this, about rental. If you own a home within a 100-mile radius of New York City, I suggest for you not to apply for a house in New York City Housing Connect because you will not be eligible. So let's say if you have like a little cabin upstate New York and still within the 100-mile radius, unfortunately you won't qualify. So that's a detail that we emphasize because sometimes a lot of applicants, like I said, have like a little cabin here, and Pennsylvania, you have to make sure it's not within those 100-mile radius. Okay. So as I mentioned before, homeownership lotteries. Homeownership, we're offering homeownerships for first-time home buyers only, unfortunately. And this can include there's a timeshare. Be careful, because if you have a timeshare, that can be taken as a real estate. So in home ownerships, we offer condos, co-ops, resales. Now we have resale, so that's really nice actually. I also would like to emphasize that for home ownership, most banks, not HPD, banks require a credit score of 620 or higher. And they have many more requirements in addition to our requirements that sometimes we do not have any jurisdiction, and files get rejected and applicants, they come back to us trying to appeal those rejections, and unfortunately there's nothing that we can do because homeownership is a whole different ballgame. It's totally different from the rentals. Okay, so make sure that if you're interested in homeownership, you get all the information and access to the forums, because they always have forums. They offered all type of instructional material for you to apply for a home ownership. Okay, and like I said before, it's for first-time home buyers only. So from here, my colleague Shiraz will take over. I'm gonna start answering questions in the chat. So if you have any questions, please, you can just put them in the chat. Thank you so much. Shiraz,
Thank you,
all
Nidia.
yours.
Much appreciated. Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to be covering the portion of the presentation dealing specifically with getting to know the system of New York City's Housing Connect website itself. Now, in getting to know the system, you first need to know, first and foremost, how to register and set up your profile. On the slide that's currently being shown, at the top right section of the screen, when you go to the Housing Connect website, the register button will be right next to the language option. If you're not comfortable with English as your primary language, we've got a whole host of additional language options for you to select from. The website itself will be translated, and you can proceed with the actual registration process. Now, with that registration process, that's where you will fill out your household details, your income details, your asset details, as well as all the household members. Through the Housing Connect website itself, the Open Lotteries tab to the top left, top right, sorry, on the left-hand section of the register button, that Open Lotteries tab is where you would be able to find the rental and home ownership opportunities discussed by Nidia previously. In regards to applying online versus applying by mail, it is significantly easier for an applicant to go through the application process online because it is instant. Now, what I mean by that is, once you've registered an account with Housing Connect and filled in all the details of your household, your income, your assets, and you clicked on the Open Lotteries tab at the top of the screen, and you see the list of lotteries, you can click on each individual lottery in order to view their details. Now, on that details page itself, you would be able to see the requirements for each lottery in order to best determine whether or not you believe you are eligible for it. Those would include items such as the monthly rent of the unit, the total annual household income minimum that you need to meet, as well as the total annual household income maximum that you cannot exceed. However, as Nydia previously mentioned, if an applicant or a prospective applicant has any type of rental subsidy which covers the monthly rent amount that will be listed on the advertisement, you will still be considered eligible as long as you don't go beyond the maximum income amount. As long as that rental subsidy covers the monthly rent, you're good to go. When it comes to applying online, you can apply to as many of these opportunities as you believe you would qualify for based on the details that you can see on the website. When you apply by mail versus applying online, there will be a address on the advertisement that specifies that you will need to write in a self-addressed envelope to a specific address in order to receive a paper application. Now, when you send that self-addressed envelope in requesting that paper application, the marketing agent / building developers team will then send you a paper application specific to that particular advertisement for that specific building. And you will then have to fill that out manually and mail it back to them. Now, we all know that it takes time for mail to travel, and that could be a pretty time-consuming process if you're interested in shotgunning for multiple opportunities, because the wide range of incomes will allow a vast amount of New Yorkers to be eligible for multiple opportunities. And in order to not miss out on anything, you want to take advantage of using the website to its fullest potential by applying to anything and everything that you qualify for, rather than applying by mail if it can be helped. For anyone who isn't particularly tech savvy, anyone who prefers to have some sort of assistance and walkthrough guidance in getting the registration process and application process set up, as Nydia previously mentioned, we've got the housing ambassador system in place, and you can feel free to use that resource to contact any housing ambassador that would be within your area, since we have so many throughout the 5 boroughs, and they will gladly schedule you in order to help you with the entirety of the process from the beginning to the end. Now, after you've applied, you will see at the time that the tenant selection process begins for any individual lottery that you have been assigned something called a log number, LOG. Now, your log number is your place in line to be processed for that particular building. Now, when it comes to the log number itself, the way it is assigned is that irrespective of whether somebody is the very first person to apply for a building or the last person to apply, it doesn't matter. Everybody will receive that log number at random. And that log number will be processed sequentially, going from number 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. So the lower your log number, the higher your chances are of being reached out to and contacted for a lottery that you've applied for. Now, how does the lottery work? We mentioned the online application process, and we also mentioned the log numbers, and as well as the paper applications. If you've got any further questions regarding these opportunities, you can feel free to drop a message in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, I'll also give you our Housing Connect hotline number. I'll post that in the chat as well if Nydia hasn't already. That way you could contact us, and myself or any one of my colleagues, we're all project managers for each lottery that's listed on the website, along with our counterparts at HDC. We would be able to guide you through the process and explain any of the policy-related questions you may have. Now, as I previously mentioned, log numbers are randomly assigned. Online applicants can view their log number on Housing Connect by selecting My Applications. Now, the My Applications tab will be at the top right section of the screen, similar to the other options I mentioned, such as open lotteries and login and registration. Now, paper applicants, as I mentioned previously, will need to contact our hotline or call the developer's marketing agent in order to request their log number, because they wouldn't be able to see it since it won't be on the online portal if they applied through paper, which is again one of the many disadvantages to applying by paper mail as opposed to applying through the website. When it comes to tenant selection to determine eligibility, as I mentioned previously, it's completed in log number order. Log number 1, number 2, number 3, it's processed going down in that order. Now, when it comes to the logbook's order of processing, we have set aside units in some of our buildings that you will be able to see the details of on the advertisement, where it may mention at the top of the requirements chart that we've got 5% of the units set aside for applicants that are mobility disabled and 2% for applicants that have visual/hearing disabilities. Now, if the buildings with these disability requirements list these specific percentages at the top of the advertisement, what that means is that if you've registered through the Housing Connect account or through the paper application, indicating that you or a household member is in need of a unit that has the accommodations needed for people with these specific disabilities, the logbook processing order will still go sequentially and from number 1 all the way down, but the numerical processing will be slightly altered in that for the set aside unit percentages, those applicants who have indicated these specific disabilities will be processed separately for those units, as opposed to the rest of the applicants. Now, we also have a community board preference for anybody who lives within the community board. It's currently at 50%, if applicable, for those specific buildings, like I mentioned. You'll be able to see at the top of the unit chart on each individual advertisement whether or not these set-asides and preferences apply. We've also got a 5% preference, not set-aside, for New York City's municipal employees. Generally across the board for all of the lotteries that we've got, there's a general preference for people who live within New York City. We also have building opportunities, sometimes where either a vast majority or all of the building units are specifically catered to seniors who are aged 62 and above. That information, similarly to the rest of the information that we are currently discussing on this slide, will be visible at the top of any advertisement that you look at on our website. Now, please note that I mentioned that there's a general preference for New York City applicants. And if you are a non-NYC resident, meaning that you are not living within the 5 boroughs, you are considered low priority in Housing Connect. Now, what does low priority mean in this context? It means that irrespective of what log number you have received, if you, let's say you happen to get log number 1, but you are a non-NYC resident, what it means by you being low priority is that the New York City applicants who applied will be processed until there are no more and in the event that there are still units remaining and all of the New York City applicants have been processed, they will then have the non-New York City residents processed, which is why they are considered low priority. Now, when it comes to the application dashboard, after you've completed your Housing Connect registration process and you've applied for a lottery, you will then have access to see your application dashboard. Now, similarly to the options I mentioned previously, everything will be available at the top right section of the screen on the Housing Connect website. Now, the application dashboard is your one-stop shop for finding out about everything that you've applied for. It will provide real-time updates to your application, as well as any and all status updates for anything that you've applied for. You'd be able to keep track of whether or not the tenant selection process has begun for anything that you've applied for. When it comes to the tenant selection process, it's important to keep in mind that every advertisement on the website has a deadline date. Now, the deadline date is the final day for an applicant to apply for any lottery, whether it's rental or home ownership. Anything after the deadline date, unfortunately, that would be too late. However, what you need to know is that the tenant selection process tends to begin within a month after that deadline date. And Housing Connect will reflect those real-time updates by showing that, hey, your application for this specific building has received a log number. Now, Housing Connect will display different status updates for each individual application through that application summary with items such as pending. Pending would mean that you've applied, but your application has not been selected for further processing yet. It'll show things such as in process, showing that the marketing agent / building developers team is up to your log number and they are in the process of reviewing your application. It will show things like action required. Now, action required is it's imperative to pay attention to whether or not you've received the action required notification. The action required notification means that you must do something in order to have your application continue being processed. Now, you would have to click on that action required notification in order to see what is required. Now, sometimes it'll be, well, it tends to be a host of things, but a majority of the time, what will happen is they will request additional documentation in order to further verify details regarding your income or your assets or other household information. Now, if it says completed, that means that the application review is finished. Now, when it comes to the appointment for eligibility. Now, an invitation to submit documents for the assessment of eligibility would take place for online applicants through the Housing Connect portal. As we mentioned previously, the application dashboard will mention that, there is an action required for the particular building that you've applied for, and that, this specific time period will be the time for your eligibility appointment in which you submit documents through the website, and the marketing agent will then review that to continue processing you. Now, if you are a paper application applicant, you will have to submit those documents via mail. The marketing agent and the building development team will reach out to you through paper mail, requesting you to send in those documents that you could have otherwise submitted instantly through the website, which is another reason why it is imperative for you to take advantage of the free resource of using a housing ambassador if you are not comfortable with the application process on your own. Now, all applicants, irrespective of whether you are an online applicant or a mail applicant, will have the option to drop off documents in person. So let's say you're having a day where you're having trouble accessing the internet, or you can't get to somewhere where you can access a computer, etc. There will still be information on Housing Connect for that specific building where an applicant will have the option to drop off documents so that in person, the marketing agent, the building developments team will be able to receive it, and they'll be able to continue processing you for that particular building. Now, please note that there is a 10 business day timeline to submit all documentation that is requested for your application's review. Keep in mind that your documents are kept secure and confidential, and that your appointment for eligibility is not an interview. They're just simply requesting all of those specific documentation that pertain to the details of your Housing Connect or paper application registration for that specific building. They just want to gather your documents, review the details, ensure they have everything on point so that they can determine the initial stage of your eligibility. Now, not every household that is invited for an appointment for eligibility will be offered a unit, even if they are eligible. What will happen is that for each of these buildings, since we have thousands and thousands and thousands of applicants, marketing agents and the building development teams will collect documentation from a wide range of applicants so that they can process them quickly without there being delay in between asking for documents individually. But just because you've been requested to submit that documentation doesn't mean that you will be eligible necessarily, nor does it mean you will be offered a unit, even if you are eligible, because there is potential for the units to be filled before your log number is processed. And a prime example of that, if, for example, a building that you've applied for has 10 units, and in this scenario, your log number is 1,000. That means there are 999 applicants that need to be processed before they reach your number. If for some reason you are reached out to for an eligibility appointment to submit documentation, there is a high chance that by the time they hit log 999, they may have found 10 eligible applicants who have all decided to proceed with signing a lease for a unit. So please keep in mind that, there's no guarantees. Now, when it comes to fees for anything that I mentioned, anything that Nidhi has mentioned so far, please note that there is no application fee, there is no brokerage fee. Now, when it comes to the appointment for eligibility, credit check fees are allowed, but it is limited to $20. And you are only charged once you've been determined eligible and a unit is available. So let's say you are invited to that eligibility appointment, you submitted all your documentation, you've done the credit check. You don't have to pay for the credit check until they've determined both your eligibility and a unit is available. Now, when it comes to credit and criminal background checks, please note you cannot be rejected for your credit score. You can alternatively, instead of having your credit score run, you can provide proof of a positive rental history that can be substituted for a credit check. You can provide evidence of rent payments. You could also provide your own credit check if you're comfortable with that. Now, what you can be rejected for is a bankruptcy within the last 12 months, open/unsatisfied delinquencies, collection, money judgment, and liens totaling 5,000 plus, excluding medical and student debt, over 120 days due. Now, possible reasons for rejection. Now, if you've submitted multiple applications for any particular lottery, please note that this will not help you in any way, shape, or form. Please ensure that you only submit one application and nothing else. If you submit multiple applications, you will be rejected. If you are below the minimum income that is listed on any advertisement, and you do not have a rental subsidy that covers the monthly rent amount listed on the advertisement, you can be rejected. If you are over the maximum income threshold, also mentioned in the advertisement, you could be rejected. If you are a mail-in applicant and you've submitted an incomplete application missing crucial details, you could be rejected. So please ensure that before you send in a paper application, if you choose to go that route, please, double, triple check, ensure that you've got everything as complete as humanly possible, because you don't want to ruin your chances on accident. Failure to submit documentation. As I mentioned previously, you've got 10 business days to submit your documentation, which is why you would need to keep your ear out for the Housing Connect dashboard, as we discussed previously. That application summary tab, if it mentions the action required notification, then you would need to submit your documents within that 10 business day time frame. If you fail to submit them, you will be rejected. Your information needs to be consistent. Any inconsistent information in regards to your income, etc., that could be heavily penalized. Non-proof of interdependency. If you've got other people living within the household, you need to prove financial interdependency. If there is no marriage or no sort of like legal union, you need to prove interdependency. As Nydia previously mentioned, you cannot be over the asset limit. Now, the asset limit, it varies based upon the area median income. The area median income will be listed on the advertisements themselves, and that way you would have a general idea of what the asset limit is for that particular AMI. Some buildings may have more than one, so the asset limits will differ. So please pay attention to those asset limits. As Nydia previously mentioned, you can't own property within a 100-mile radius of New York City. If you own property within a 100-mile radius of New York City, you will be rejected. And as we previously mentioned, the credit/criminal background check. Now, when it comes to appealing a rejection, now, as we mentioned previously, on the application summary tab on Housing Connect, that if you've applied for a building, my personal suggestion is to check that Housing Connect website's application summary dashboard at least once a week, just to ensure that you're not missing out on any potential contact opportunities. Now, if you are rejected for a building, you do have, similarly to the document submission timeline, you have another 10 business day timeline to appeal that decision. Now, in appealing that decision, as we previously mentioned with the dashboard, the application summary tab will say that there's an action required for this particular building. When you've clicked on that option, it will then say that you've been rejected for this particular building. It will explain the reasoning behind it. And you will then have the opportunity to upload any documentation and explanation that helps to prove your case as to why you are eligible. Maybe it could be updated income information, new pay stubs, a new employment verification letter. If you're self-employed, maybe a letter from your accountant or tax preparer, etc. Because there are a wide variety of reasons why an applicant may be rejected, as we previously mentioned. So there's different types of documentation and explanations that you can provide in order to ensure that you're giving them, the marketing agents, the most updated information in order to have your decision potentially overturned if you are in fact eligible. Now, let's say that in the absolute worst case scenario, your rejection appeal is denied. Now, the appealing a rejection will go to the marketing agent. The marketing agent works for the building developers team, and they work alongside us project managers at HPD and HDC in order to vet the applicant's information for eligibility before it comes to us. So let's say that you've been rejected and the marketing agents review your documentation and they reject your appeal. You now have the ability to submit a complaint to HPD. Now, the complaint timeline will be 5 business days instead of 10, but it is your second well, actually, yeah, it's your second opportunity to prove your eligibility. The complaint does not go to the marketing agent like the appeal did. It goes to us. So a fresh perspective. It would be the same as appealing a rejection, in which Housing Connect will notify you that there is action to be taken on this particular application. And similarly to how you uploaded specific documentation as well as an explanation to prove your potential eligibility, you will be doing the exact same thing for the complaint, with the exception being that there's a 5 business day timeline and that HPD/HDC will be looking at that complaint.
Shiraz, I would like to add something when it comes
Right.
to appealing and complaints.
Sure.
Thank you very much. So, as Shiraz was indicating about appeals and complaints, it's imperative because we see this in our daily basis. Applicants appeal a rejection notification, and when they appeal, they go to the appeal comments and say, let's say that a particular application gets rejected for missing to submit documents. And on the rejection letter states, applicant failed to submit 6 pay stubs. And when you go and appeal and you said, dear marketing agent, that's incorrect. I submitted those 6 pay stubs. You didn't see them. And you do not submit the pay stub that you submitted before, the marketing agent will reject you again. Make sure that when you are appealing in your dispute, you include every single document that will prove the marketing agent incorrect rejection. Just don't send a comment saying it's incorrect, the calculation is incorrect, I submitted the documents. Make sure to include the complete documentation so your application can be processed. The same thing with the complaint. If you submit a complaint to HPD because, as Shiraz mentioned, new set of eyes, if you submit that complaint saying, yes, I did submit, let's say failure to submit documents again, yes, I did submit the documents and the marketing agents are they're not seeing what I sent. Let's say I submitted the documents via email, because you can submit documents via email. They give you different choices for you to do either Housing Connect through via email or drop off in person. Let's say you opted for submitting documents via email, and then you come to HPD during your complaint and say, yes, I did submit, but you don't forward the email or you don't include the snapshot of that email that you submitted with all the documents, we have nothing to see. We will reject the complaint again because you're not supporting the dispute. So make sure that it's imperative you support any dispute with documents. Okay? Thank you.
Additionally, one more thing I wanted to add on to that, Nydia. For any time that you are appealing a rejection or submitting a complaint, in addition to Nydia's point of ensuring that those documents are on point, please be as descriptive as possible within the comment sections provided to you for those options. That way, the marketing agent will get a clearer understanding of why you're submitting these specific documents and how they relate to supporting your case for eligibility. That way, you wouldn't need to worry about any miscommunication or misunderstanding because you have provided the detail in as much clarity as possible. Now, while this doesn't guarantee that you will end up being eligible, if you actually truly are eligible and you've done the steps outlined by us, then you should have no issues. Now, the resources for applicants that we've got on the Housing Connect website Housing Connect is a very extensive resource. It's extremely easy to use at this point because the moment you get to the website, there will be the option to click on the Learn page. Now, the Learn page on Housing Connect has a series of extremely short but detailed videos that show step by step all options and all details needed in order to get started on the site. It'll guide you through the registration process. It'll teach you how to log in. It'll show you how to use the Open Lotteries tab. It'll explain as well the things that we've mentioned, the items outlined on each individual advertisement, as well as it'll also explain the tenant selection process. The Housing Connect About page will also cover some of the details that me and Nydia have outlined here in case you know, you forget some of the details, or maybe you might need a little bit of a refresher because something might have been unclear. There would be a guide on what to expect in regards to the affordable housing process. We've got a link outlined below the slide. I'll post that in the chat in a moment. That will provide all of these resources where, you know, Housing Connect will also have YouTube video tutorials, checklists and resources saying what types of documentation you can expect to be requested of. The applicant income guide teaching you what Nydia and myself previously explained in regards to the types of documentation you would need to supply based on whether or not you are employed or self-employed or a mixture of both, as well as a guide for applicants with the mobility, visual, or hearing disabilities. As Nydia previously mentioned, we've got the housing ambassadors, who are also a pretty critical resource for getting in-person or sometimes video or phone assistance with the Housing Connect application process, and ready to rent. So what I'll do is, in addition to that link that I mentioned below, we've got HPD's website here, our sister agency, HDC. We've got our Housing Connect website to access the lottery, our Housing Ambassadors website link where you can find the housing ambassador nearest to you and their contact information, address, etc. NYC Ready to Rent, our Housing Connect email for any inquiries related to the website, as well as our Housing Connect hotline, where an applicant can call to speak to us project managers, me and myself, me, Nydia, any of our colleagues, in order to get information related to the lottery or questions regarding the website that they're not able to find the answer to through the Learn page that we previously discussed. Now, if you've got any questions, now's your time.
All right, folks, let's keep this organized. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. And I will do my best to recognize everyone. Okay. I see Shanika Campbell.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Earlier, you guys mentioned that if you submit 2 applications, then you will automatically be rejected.
Correct.
Okay, so I previously did one profile and I submitted an application, but then I got kicked out of that email, so I can no longer access the same profile. So I created a new one. Does that mean that I will always be rejected, or is there a way that we could like close the old one and I just go on with the new one from now on?
So in regards to an old account that you no longer have access to, if you could reach out to us at the email address that I'll put it in the chat. It's currently on the screen. our tech support department can take a look at it in order to find the project manager on our end who's responsible for that specific building. They can then look into the situation to see if your name appears twice on the log or if only the new one appears. And then they'll be able to proceed from there in order to find out whether or not you'll be rejected for it or not. But because it's a technical based issue, there is a high likelihood that you could potentially receive some sort of tech based help to remove that first account since you have issues getting into it. But I'll put that email address in the chat for you right now. Save this. Any and all technical inquiries should go to this email address.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, I see Takata.
Yes. Good evening, and thank you so much for your expertise tonight in this
Good evening. My pleasure.
it's a complicated process. I have a
Yes.
question. I applied and received that I was selected for this lottery. Now, you said the login number is what determines where you are in the process.
Correct.
So I don't want to say it, but it's like I think my number is like 14,000.
Mhm.
Is that could be possible?
Yes, so it is very possible. However, it is
Mhm.
highly dependent on the number of units on that advertisement that are listed. The
Okay.
higher the number of units on that advertisement,
Yes.
the higher your chances are, even if you've got a high log number, because you've got to go through more applicants in order to find eligible people to fill those units. I've seen cases where people with log numbers in the 20,000s have gotten affordable housing units for buildings that have upwards of 70, 80, 90, 100 units. So it's totally dependent on the number of units on that ad. So don't lose hope just because your log number is high. It does mean
Yeah.
that your chances are lower, but your chances are not zero.
Yeah. Keep
And,
hope
and
alive.
also, if
Yes.
Absolutely.
you have included a preference, the chances are higher. Let's say community board, mobile impaired, visual impaired, hearing impaired. Those
Yes.
preference, they get selected first, of course, following the log numbers.
Mhm.
But if you indicated a preference, your chances also will increase.
Oh, okay. What about if you're a senior?
So if you're a
Some, go
Okay,
ahead, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay. So if you're a senior,
Mhm.
if the building itself specifies at the top of the advertisement that there's a preference for applicants who are 62 years of age or older,
Yeah.
then yes, there will be a higher chance of you being selected.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there weren't a lot of units. Yeah, it wasn't. But I'm gonna go with Keep Hope Alive, and I continually go in and see what I qualify
Absolutely.
for. Thank you so much.
No problem. Please
Yeah.
keep in mind that
Okay.
we've got buildings coming up on the website on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
So, even if you've applied for one and you've got your heart set on it,
Right.
it's best to apply to as many opportunities as you believe you could potentially be eligible for, because the nature of a lottery really is just that.
That's right. Okay, and you said this is live. It's going to be on the YouTube. We can
Um,
get this information again, or
yeah, so
Yeah, so Brooklyn Community Board 9, we will have it on our YouTube channel.
oh, okay.
So you'll be able to, if you just go to YouTube and type Brooklyn Community Board 9, go to our YouTube channel, we'll have it up there by the end of the week in
Okay
the
then.
special meeting section.
Okay, thank you so much for everything. Okay, good night.
Good luck.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So are there any other questions? Okay. All right, so I just have time here at the end to thank HPD for sending out representatives. I want to thank Shiraz and Nydia for joining us this evening. Thank you both
My pleasure.
for your presentation. And thank you for also handling questions in the chat as well. Before we depart, I just want to close up by reminding everyone on the call that you've heard it straight from HPD that you really should follow all of the opportunities that you may be eligible for through Housing Connect. I honestly, I kind of see this as kind of like applying for a job, right? In order to get a job, you typically apply for like 10 jobs and you might get one. You might get an interview. You might apply for 20 jobs and get an interview. This honestly is very similar process for Housing Connect. All of the developments that you're eligible for, you should most definitely apply for, and make sure that you keep your contact information up to date on your Housing Connect profile. One of the things that I saw when I worked at HPD is people change phone numbers, people change addresses, and then they miss out on opportunities because they didn't keep their contact information up to date. So if you are using online resources, make sure that you keep your account contact information up to date. I also just want for clarity, because this does come up more than you can imagine with the community board. As it pertains to the community board preference, this is important. You do not get the preference by joining Brooklyn Community Board 9. I want to make that very clear. By becoming a board member, that is not how you get the preference. It is totally two different things. Becoming a board member is a completely separate process. So I just want to make that clear. You do get, if you live within the community district boundaries, you will get that preference depending on where that development is located. But I want to make it very clear, joining Brooklyn Community Board 9 isn't necessarily going to get you that community preference. So I just want to make that distinction. I also want to draw people to our e-blast every Friday, typically around 5 o'clock, but information is constantly coming and going. We send out an e-blast to folks who have signed up for our community listserv. Within that e-blast every Friday, we put all of the board's information. So when meetings are, come in our general board meeting. We also get information from our elected officials. So we put that information in there as well. We do receive a lot of information from nonprofits in our community district in Crown Heights. Also throughout Central Brooklyn. So if you're ever looking for resources, whether it's employment, whether it's youth services, definitely we get that information coming to our e-blast. So you can definitely reach out to the board office. Again, our number is 718-778-9279, or you can email us at vk09-1@cb.nyc.gov with your contact information, and we can get you signed up for our weekly e-blast. Also in that e-blast, we do public hearing notices. There is a lot of initiatives happening throughout the city of New York as it pertains to housing. And so I definitely want to encourage everyone to stay on top of that information. These are massive initiatives that the city is trying to undertake. We do send out that information. We want to make sure that the community has an opportunity to comment on programs and services that will inevitably affect the folks that we represent in our community district. So definitely look out for that. To the folks at HPD, are you able to send us, at least send me this presentation? So if folks reach out to me and the board staff, we can share this information with the public?
You'll have to contact Anna Ramirez or Shaheem Taylor for it. they'll be able to send you the completed presentation.
Okay, thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so I will reach out to your colleagues to get that, and then folks who may want that presentation, I would say hopefully I can get it by and you reach out, I will have that for you. But you can also go onto our YouTube page, and we have been live streaming the whole time. So if you'd like to view the recording, you can do that at your own time. Okay, so the hand went down. Let me just, oh, also, again, Shanika, I see your hand.
Yeah, sorry. I'm kind of retracting a little bit, but earlier in the conversation, right, that you were saying something about household income and the number of people in the household. Say, for example, if there are like 3 people in the household and one is a minor, a child, do we still add that person as a member of the household?
Absolutely. Yes. Make sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Everybody, if
Thank
it's
you.
the grandmother, if it's the child, the unborn child. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that question. And thank you for that answer. So that clarification is good. Okay, so again, if you need more resources, you can reach out to HPD's hotline. Nydia, what's the number?
212-863-7990.
Perfect. All right. And again, you reach out to Brooklyn Community Board 9. You can visit our website. You can visit our YouTube for this recording or recordings of our meetings, our committee and general board meetings, all open to the public. Our general board meeting this month will be March 26th. It will start at 7 p.m. We are having our general board meetings at MS 61, which is located at 400 Empire Boulevard, at the intersection of Empire and New York. Okay, all right. So with that, again, my name is Dante Arnwine. I serve as the district manager of Brooklyn Community Board 9. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join this Housing Connect presentation. I'll think of other presentations or resources that we may need throughout the community district. Don't hesitate to reach out to the board, to the board office. If you are part of an organization and you're looking to partner with the board to do things to bring much needed information and resources to the community, again, don't hesitate to reach out as well. Okay, with that, folks, I want to thank everyone. Again, I want to thank HPD for this presentation. I also want to thank Digital Girl for providing the physical space for folks to come and do the presentation in person. I also wanted to acknowledge the Major Owens Health and Wellness Center for providing the space as well. All right, folks, everyone have a good night. Be safe, stay dry, and be well.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone. Be well, be safe.
Thank you.